A shocking discovery terrifies the people of Jordan and Israel when they hear the news about a mystical lagoon adjacent to the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea, also called the Salty Sea, is a large endorheic lake situated in the Jordan Rift Valley. An endorheic lake is a drainage basin that typically retains water, but does not extend or flow to external bodies of water like rivers and oceans. These basins are also closed, or terminal basins, and these bodies of water include some of the most massive lakes in the world, such as the Caspian Sea, which is considered the world's largest inland body of water. So what has been discovered within the Dead Sea? And why was this discovery deemed a symbol that signified the inevitable end of the world? Stay tuned, because today we will be discussing the terrifying discovery in the Jordan that defies all logic. When we talk about the Dead Sea, the term dead in its title does not make it a very appealing place that is worth visiting. But did you know, despite its name, the Dead Sea is considered to be a very famous body of water on Earth, deemed as a legendary fountain of life due to its wondrous healing and capabilities. So, where exactly is this magical sea located? The Dead Sea can be found in the Mediterranean region within the Great African Syrian Rift between Jordan and Israel. The Jordan River, or River Jordan, is the only primary water source that flows into the Dead Sea. Although there are small recurrent springs underneath and around the Dead Sea that cause the formation of quicksand pits along the sea's edges, there are no outlet streams for these springs. The Jordan River, roughly 251 kilometers long, is a river in the Middle East that flows north to south through the Sea of Galilee and onto the Dead Sea. Although it is not as well known as the Dead Sea, this river holds significant importance in Judaism and Christianity. In the biblical canon, it is mentioned that the Israelites crossed the Jordan River into the Promised Land. It is also proclaimed that it was in this river that Jesus of Nazareth was baptized by John the Baptist. So what exactly caused an uproar in Jordan and Israel? Only recently, Jordan authorities began an immersive investigation after a pool of water beside the Dead Sea turned blood red. Not only did this pool of blood red colored water strike up controversy, it also managed to bring attention to the red water mentioned in the Old Testament, where the pharaohs of Egypt witnessed the 10 plagues. The first church historians believed that the 10 plagues of Egypt took place sometime between the years 1570 and 1440 BC. One of these 10 plagues was a plague of blood. When the Pharaoh of Egypt refused to set the Israelites free, Moses pointed toward Aaron's direction. Aaron then stretches his rod onto the Nile River and turns the Egyptian waters into blood in order to convince the Pharaoh to allow the Israelites to leave Egypt. All the fish in the river died, and the Egyptians were not able to drink from the bloody river. And when they tried to dig around the river for spring, all they could find were springs of blood. The Dead Sea and the Jordan River have always retained a major significance in religious beliefs. So when a pool of water beside the Dead Sea miraculously changes into blood red color, devout believers were quick to take the unusual phenomenon as a sign of the slowly impending Judgment Day. In Revelation chapter 16 verse 4, it says, "And the third angel poured out his vial upon the rivers and fountains of waters, and they became blood." To put it clearly, this verse in the book of Revelation mentions one of the plagues which God will pour out into the world when Armageddon comes. Before the unusual phenomenon took place in Jordan, the Alexander River, which is also a river located in Israel, not only changed color in water, but also carried blood along its stream, causing a major environmental disaster that lasted for weeks. This is because the Alexander River, which runs the width of Israel from the hills of Nablus on the west bank to the sea, became polluted with bloody waters from Palestinian slaughterhouses. To make matters worse, the blood pollution of the Alexander River happened when the world experienced a severe global pandemic in 2020. Just like the plague of blood in the 10 plagues of Egypt, when the Nile River turned into blood, Egyptians were unable to drink from the foul waters of the river. Such was the case for the region of Palestine and Israel, whose people heavily relied on the water from the polluted river for their source of water. The 10 plagues of Egypt consisted of water turning to blood, frogs, lice, flies, livestock pestilence, boils, hail, locusts, darkness, and the killing of firstborn children, with all of the plagues representing God's expression of justice upon those who refuse to believe in Him and repent. While many questions started to pile up due to the blood-colored lagoon beside the Dead Sea, various theories were also brought up to the surface, ranging from ideas based on religious and scientific aspects. From a religious standpoint, many believers expressed that the location of the red-colored pool of water was once where the fabled city of Sodom and Gomorrah stood. In the biblical book of Genesis, Sodom and Gomorrah were two notoriously evil cities filled with wicked people. Due to the damning sins that the people there committed, God revealed to Abraham that the two cities were to be destroyed for their evil sins. Abraham pleaded with God for the lives of the good people living in the cities, especially the lives of his family. By doing so, God had agreed to negotiate with him. Initially, God had decided to spare the cities if Abraham were to find 50 righteous people residing there. However, God graciously agreed to spare them in the two cities if Abraham managed to find 10 righteous people at all. After their agreement, 2 angels who appeared as men were sent to Sodom, but they were met with a wicked mob. Upon only finding Lot, the nephew of Abraham, and his family to be the only good people in the two cities, the angels quickly warned them to evacuate the city of Sodom at once, as the evil cities were to be destroyed by sulfur and fire to punish the sinful people there for their grave sins. The angels warned them not to look back once they escaped the city. As Lot and his family flee the catastrophic destruction, without heeding the angels' warnings, Lot's wife looks back upon the city and is instantly turned into a pillar of salt. Historically, Sodom and Gomorrah are presumably located underneath or close to the shallow waters south of Al-Asan, a former peninsula in the central part of the Dead Sea. Today, this peninsula entirely separates the sea's northern and southern basins. The peninsula was believed to have been destroyed in 1900 BCE by an earthquake, causing a massive geologic rift extending southward from the Jordan River Valley to the Zambezi River system situated in eastern Africa. Modern archaeologists were able to come forward with evidence proving that the area where two fabled cities once stood was once fertile in the Middle Bronze Age about 2000 to 1550 BCE. Because of the fertile land and the fresh water that flowed out into the Dead Sea, Lot chose that specific place to graze his flocks. In today's present times, Mount Sodom, a mountain sitting atop of the southwestern end of the Dead Sea, reflects Sodom's name. However, the destruction that once commenced in the Dead Sea did not strip the body of water of all of its capabilities. Despite its name, the Dead Sea is actually a hypersaline lake that initially used to be part of an ancient, much larger lake that extended into the Sea of Galilee. So why was this lake called the Dead Sea? It is primarily called this because no plants or living creatures could survive in its waters, albeit the exclusion of microbial life. The lake's outlet to the sea evaporated around 18,000 years ago, leaving a salty residue in the basin at the lowest point of the Earth, which is 1,300 feet below sea level. Hence its name, the Salty Sea, or the Dead Sea. Although it had only been part of a much larger lake in the past, it is essential to note that before the water level begins to drop, the Dead Sea was roughly 80 kilometers long, attaining a width of 11 miles and a surface area of around 1,020 square kilometers. The dropping of water levels occurred in the late 20th and 21st century, drastically changing the physical appearance of the Dead Sea with a strip of dry land separating the lake's northern and southern basins. The northern basin, which is now the actual Dead Sea, managed to retain its overall dimensions despite losing a ton of water, with its shoreline plunging downward from the surrounding landscape. In the note of the mysterious red-colored lagoon approximately adjacent to the Dead Sea, images of one particular pool of water continued to stir up the media. In contrast, samples of the water were taken to Jordan's Ministry of Water and Irrigation to determine the cause of the unusual and unexplainable phenomenon. Although the red-colored waters from the lagoon conjured up ideas of the biblical plague of blood, scientists believe that the cause of this occurrence may be much more down to earth. The head of the Al-Karak Council's Water and Architecture Committee, Fatih Al-Hawemel, states that they are continuing to work on determining the source of the blood red lagoon. Although extensive research has been done on the matter, Jordan's ministry spokesperson Omar Salamach states that the underlying causes of the red waters remain unexplained for the time being. There have been a few theories thrown out as to why a pool of water that is isolated from fresh water may drastically change in color. One of these theories includes a specific type of bacteria and red algae in hypersaline waters, which changes color in sunlight. However, this theory does not explain why the lagoon's water alone changed in color, whereas the neighboring bodies of water remain the same, especially since these waters are in a location where it has year-round sunny sky. Today, the unusual phenomenon remains unexplainable. Fortunately, scientists are still researching the matter to determine its root cause. But what about you? Do you think the reasons for the blood red waters remains unexplainable because it is a sign from God? Or do you think it may be because of something scientific and down to earth? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.